just you find that spot within yourself, that inner determination. You might have to connect you might have to connect with yourself in a way you've never connected with yourself before. You might have to dig a little deeper, find that part of you. It exists. Find that part of you that can see the light in all the darkness.
Have you ever heard the phrase becoming the best version of yourself? Yeah, me too. But what does that even mean, and how do we become that person? I'm here to help you navigate through those questions and come up with actionable steps in order for you to live your best life. We've got to discover what we want. We've got to figure out a plan on how to get there, and then we have to go. We can't just sit and wait any longer. Life won't wait on us. So come join me on this constant journey to become the best version of yourself and to find your best you. I'll see you on the other side. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Best You. I got the one and only Pat Graves with me here today, otherwise known as Flippa Day. I'm stoked to have him. I've seen his videos and everything like that, and I actually went and watched the live shooting of the video, and it was super cool. Really cool to see him energetic and going after it and everything like that. But how I want to start today is just so you kind of tell a little bit of the background of how Flippa Day started and the Inspire Happiness movement that you started.
Cool. Yeah. So Flippa Day started on January 1st, 2014. Okay. And went until January 19th, 2017. So it was 1,115 days in a row. What inspired me to start it was flipping has always been something that has made me genuinely happy ever since I can remember. And I was going through, and I've battled depression, and so I wanted to do something that would create a happier lifestyle for me. And so flipping, being something that has always made me happy, decided to do it every day and film every one of them, post them every day to keep myself accountable.
Had you gotten out of your depression state before you started, or did that lead you kind of out of that state?
Well, depression is an ongoing battle. It certainly helped alleviate the symptoms because depression, you're locked in this kind of googly state where everything may be great in your life, but for some reason you just can't feel good. You can't get the motivation to get up and get going. And so by posting these videos and telling people I was doing this and keeping myself accountable, it gave me that fuel because I didn't want to necessarily let people down. And I also I also understood that by helping myself, I could be helping others. So it certainly helped with the depression.
Right.
I still battle with depression, but with something like flipping, you have to be in the present moment. You can't be thinking about anything else. So, yeah, flipping definitely helps with depression.
So what would you advise somebody, or what would your advice to be to somebody who has depression on kind of how to work through it and maybe how to get to the other end of it?
Man, just whatever it takes to get that engine rolling, just go. Just turn it on and go. I know it's hard, but you just have to muster up the strength and the courage and just being like, screw it. I need to do this for myself, and just do it. Once you break through that wall, things will get a little bit easier.
When you say get that engine rolling, what do you mean?
Just you find that spot within yourself, that inner determination. You might have to connect with yourself in a way you've never connected with yourself before. You might have to dig a little deeper, find that part of you. It exists. Find that part of you that can see the light in all the darkness. Not to sound cliche, but it's true. I mean, times can get very dark, and sometimes it doesn't seem like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but trust me, there always is.
Gotcha. One thing I heard you say on that Nashville local news interview you did back in, I think, February, was they asked you how many, the longest time or the longest number of attempts it took, and you said maybe about 600.
Yeah.
And obviously not all of them were on the first try, that's for sure.
No.
But what's it like having to fail time and time again and keep yourself motivated to keep trying? Do you ever get to a point where you think maybe I'm never going to make this?
I do my best to never let that thought get in my head. And what really continues to encourage me when I'm in the midst of such an intense challenge is how close I will have gotten so many times. That specific one that took, I think, maybe 600 attempts was it's called the Crazy Gravy Train.
Okay.
So basically I do a front flip with a 360 between the legs, behind the back, and dunk it. I'm a perfectionist. I made it 12 times where my hand didn't touch the rim.
Oh.
And so I didn't call that a dunk. So I had to make it, where my hand touched the rim. So in those times of challenge, that belief in yourself, like that belief in myself, is really what kept it going. And then just the fact that I was having so much fun.
Right.
I knew I was doing something that most likely no one else in the world has ever done. And that's a really cool feeling, knowing that you're in the pursuit of something very unique to yourself. You'll hear me muttering things like positivity, patience, perseverance. That is what keeps the gears going. It keeps the motor running.
Right.
It keeps me pushing toward what I know I can achieve.
Gotcha. What is the hardest part about Flippa Day? Is it the constant failure that you have during those attempts?
The failure is something I'm just used to.
Okay.
Every failure is a chance to learn. And so I don't look at a failure as something that's a setback. People call, I had a failure, I took an L.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're taking an L as far as like learning, you've learned something, yeah. But you certainly don't lose something when you fail. What I do is obviously I fail all the time. I just take like a little mental note, mainly about how I think that motion or shot should feel. Flipping is all about feeling. I don't really think when I do it. I just kind of feel it out.
Yeah. So you talked about positivity, patience, and perseverance. Are those the three? Awesome. Another
My
thing.
3 P's to success.
There you go. Another thing I hear you talk a lot about and on your Instagram story a lot is gratitude.
Yeah.
And I think that we've talked before that you kind of put that part of your morning routine. Mm-hmm. So what does your morning routine look like? I know you're a big morning routine guy.
Yeah. Mornings are my favorite. I just think it's such a clean slate to start the day. I like to wake up, and before I do anything, before I look at my phone, I sit there and just, at very least for 5 minutes, just think about things that make me happy. Think about how I can make other people happy. How can I treat myself so that I can be better to others? And that by doing that, I think of things that I'm grateful for. By thinking of things that you're grateful for, you're going to feel good. You're going to be in a lighter, more positive state. You're going to be attracting similar energy. And I think if you give off that energy, then you're going to be receiving the same thing. You put out you get what you put out.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that I've heard is that gratitude is the most important human emotion, and it's the most powerful human emotion. And I think that people being able to speak that kind of gratitude into their mind would be huge, especially starting off the day.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people will hear the alarm and they'll be like, man, it's like this morning, I woke up at 5:45. And that's early, for pretty much everyone. That's not like a normal thing for me, but I have a lot that I want to get done. And that's how I look at it. I look at it as, oh man, I'm awake.
Yeah.
I get to work on things that I want to work on. I get to just be alive and experience this whole crazy thing that we're all a part of. And everybody's got the ability to think for themselves. And that alone is just something that you have to be grateful for. Looking at the simple things like the ability to move your hands, the ability to breathe, just simple things like that will help you put this gratitude bubble around you. And you'll find that within that space, you're more productive, you're more creative, you're way more relaxed. And I think that's where you're going to really find and connect with your true potential.
Yeah, that's cool. How were you able to cultivate that kind of gratitude into your life? Is it simply just practice, or how are you able to stay consistent with being able to have that kind of gratitude every morning?
It's really mental conditioning, Thoughts, intrusive thoughts, negative thoughts can pop in your head. And what I like to do is if I have a negative thought or, something that's intrusive that, I'm not saying you shouldn't have negative thoughts. People are going to think negative things. It's just the ebb and flow, the yin and yang. But if it's something intrusive that I really don't want to be thinking about at the time, I'll accept it, and I'll kind of like in my head just imagine like a white light around it and just be like, I'm good right now, man. Thank you, you know, and I'll try to just laser focus on the good things. And being someone who battles, you know, ADD, not severely, but definitely, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to be like, you know, there's like a constant knocking on the door and you're like totally trying to laser in, but sometimes your head's going to turn.
Gotcha.
You know?
So let's kind of go back to Flippa Day a little bit. I think that one of the things that I can notice after watching every single one of your videos is every time you make it, you were just absolutely stoked. Like that inner child, like you mentioned before we started, kind of came out of you, and you're just absolutely fired up. So you can tell you're passionate for it. I want you to kind of speak towards doing something that you are passionate about instead of going down kind of the rabbit hole of maybe just doing what a lot of other people do in order to either make money or live your life.
For sure. I actually just made a post about this very thing this morning. Flipping was something that naturally resonated with me since I can remember. I'm very fortunate for that, especially at such a young age. I mean, my mom told me it was at age 2 she started seeing me climb up on the couch and start throwing myself end over end. So I remember being like 15 and trying to figure out what I wanted my life to be. What did I want to do with my life? What did I want to be? And I noticed that there were 2 things throughout my whole life that constantly made me happy. And that was flipping and music. And so, like we were talking about, you know, before this interview, I think finding something that truly makes you happy and figuring out a way to make a living off that is a way that's possible these days because of things like social media. You have access to literally millions of people at your fingertips. So anything is possible. And instead of going the beaten route of like, hey, here's the blueprint of how many other people have been successful, you should do that too. See if that resonates with you. If it does, go for it. But if there's something that kind of rubs you the wrong way on it, then see what really truly connects with you, what you connect with, and run with it. Gotcha. There's a way. If you ask good questions, you're gonna get better answers.
Gotcha. You talked about when you were 15, you realized that you were trying to answer the question, what is my passion? What do I want to go do? And I think that's how all high schoolers are they start getting those questions at 14, 15, 16, 17, when before they're going to college, it's like, oh, what do you want to major in? Or what do you want to grow up and do? And stuff like that. And I know when I got those questions in high school, I hated it. Yeah. I said, I like sports, and that was kind of the end of my answer. I didn't have anything legitimate.
Yeah.
So what would you say to 15-year-olds or your 15-year-old self on how to properly go about figuring out what you're passionate about? I think you said that flipping kind of came to you pretty quickly, but I think a lot of people don't have that thing right off the bat. So how would you say to find and develop your passion?
Experience things. Dip your toe in the water. If that water is kind of cold, dip your toe in that water. If that's like a little better, then go somewhere similar. Just try things. You never know until you try. And in the beginning, I was just talking to you about this with some of my trick shots, things may feel strange. But because things feel strange don't mean that you should be completely deterred. Strange is just something that's unfamiliar. How do you get to make something familiar? Do it a bit. Get to learn what it is. See if maybe on the surface it may not, be the most appealing thing, but dig a little deeper and you're like, wait, this is actually awesome. So if you're struggling with trying to find what you're passionate about, what truly makes you happy, what you love, just try a bunch of things out. Yeah. You didn't know what your favorite cereal was until you tried a bunch of them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Before Flippa Day, did you know how long you were going to go for? Or was it just an everlasting thing?
That's a good question. I initially started thinking I was going to do it for a year.
Okay.
I wanted to commit myself to something for 1 year to see what it was like and have it just be one specific thing. I had to do one flip every single day, film it, and post it before midnight on that day. So by day 366, I had realized that I was having a lot of fun, and I didn't feel like I had even accomplished anything close to what I knew I could accomplish. Because I I felt like I needed to ration my cooler flips. And 365 days goes by fast.
Yeah.
And because flipping can be it's such a creative venture, no one looks the same flipping. There's no identical flip or whatever. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to come up with new ideas. I just felt like if I stopped at day 365, I would have had a lot of unfinished business. And I was healthy. I was enjoying it. Why not? So I kept going.
Was it at day 365 where you made the decision that you were going to keep going, or did you realize before that that's what you wanted to continue to do?
It was right around that time. I think I had been dabbling with the idea, because if you look back at day 355, you hear me say 10 days left.
Yeah. And
I don't think that I had fully decided, and if I had, I wasn't being transparent about it at the time. So if you look at day 366, it's New Year's Day, and I'm at my apartment, and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if I did? And it cuts to me in a handstand clapping with my feet going, day 366! And I just chuck a backflip. And it was that kept going. That very thing, you know what? I'm going to keep going. This is fun.
Right.
So, and I just felt like I had started getting some positive feedback at that time. And
yeah.
A lot of people supported me, and that was people that I was close with, people that I had never met before, and I think that's a very beautiful thing.
So I'm going to kind of step away from Flippa Day just for a second, and something that I actually saw not too long ago on your Instagram is that you were at Virginia Tech when there was that god-awful shooting.
Yeah.
What was that like, and how did that affect you?
Man, that was scary. I remember that morning waking up. It was April 16th, and normally at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, that time of year is just gorgeous. But I recognized it was snowing. That for some reason just made me feel a little off. And we had gotten an email about someone being, the people in the dorm being killed. And that was in the not the dorm room, but the dorm building across from my room, across from my dorm building. And that was just shocking. It really struck close to home. And I had a class at 9:40 that morning, and I was getting ready to leave my building and walk across the drill field. And I see my buddy Shek Takite. He's a big he was 6'9", big 6'9" basketball player.
Okay.
Unbelievable guy. But he was walking, hustling back inside, and I look out and I see cops running, with guns drawn, and he's like, Pat! He picks me up by my backpack straps and turns me around. He's go, there's guns out there. He's from Mali, West Africa. And I was just confused, what's going on? We go up in my dorm room and we turn the TV on and just watch this unfold. And I remember, I had my window just cracked in my dorm because I don't think we had any heat or air conditioning. And I remember hearing screams and things like that. And that was haunting. And I remember trying to get a hold of people and not being able to, because of course it's on national news now. All these friends and parents and siblings and relatives are trying to call people at Virginia Tech. So the phone lines were all sorts of crazy, and some people were in places that didn't get cell phone reception, and it's just this big scary mess. And it didn't really hit me until the next morning when I came back on campus. That night I had ended up going to the swim and dive house. I was on the swim and dive team at the time. H2 Okies, what's up? And gratefully, all of us were together. All of us were okay. Didn't make the situation any lighter, though. And like I was saying, it didn't hit me until I came back on campus the next morning, because that's when it became real. I pulled onto West Campus Drive, and the curbs were just lined with kids. And, they're holding their heads and just crying, and people are hugging each other, and there's news cameras and vans everywhere. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, this is awful. And I just started crying. It was really, really just gruesome. The thought of how someone could do that to so many innocent people who had such bright futures, and teachers who were giving such light and knowledge to these young kids. It was absolutely gut-wrenching, heartbreaking. And so what that event did to Virginia Tech, though, completely reshaped the campus. I'm not talking physically. I'm talking the camaraderie, the brother and sisterhood between the students and faculty there is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And I remember being there after the shooting and being like, I am in the safest place in the country right now. Mm-hmm. Even after that happened, because of the love, the understanding, just the togetherness.
Right.
That really was a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So when you look back on that event now, what goes through your mind? What was your biggest takeaway from it?
That lesson of, even within the most horrific tragedy that has hit closest to my life, there still was that shining light. Even when if you're looking around and you see nothing but darkness, keep looking. There's something there. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So, like, something that was so dark and gruesome created a light that, it was tiny at the time, but it created a light that was so bright and so positive, so loving and so warm, that once I was able to focus on that was the positive takeaway. And that's something that stuck with me forever, is just that lesson.
Yeah, I think happens kind of over a lot of times over history. I mean, I feel like that's how a lot of the country would think about with 9/11. I think the way people get through that is being able to rally around each other.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the beauty in the terror and the horribleness of it, because sometimes that's the only time that people take to actually connect with others and reach out and talk to them about legitimate things instead of just surface to surface level kind of stuff. So I think that's one of the things that's really powerful about, again, finding the light at the end of the tunnel, as you said.
Right. It really woke people up. Things like that really wake people up. Look at the state of our country right now. It really wakes people up to issues that need to be addressed, issues that can't be ignored anymore. And unfortunately, it takes something so dark, so gruesome, so negative, whatever, to draw attention to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people have so much going on in their dizzying, busy lives. I mean, look at us. We're super busy. Mm-hmm. We get it. But you can't neglect that kind of thing. And when something comes to a head that's so negative, it just forces it. The one thing that that was really negative for me at that time, Virginia Tech closed classes the rest of the week. And they gave students the opportunity to either, hey, you can take your grade, with what it is, and that will be what you can be done for the semester. I thought that was very great of them to do. They also said, you can stay and continue, and try to improve your grade. That's fine too. They gave you a choice, though. That was great. I thought Virginia Tech handled everything beautifully. Much love to the staff, and Charles Steger, rest in peace. I thought it was really well done. The thing that kind of irked me, though, was how the media handled it. I remember it being exactly 1 week after the shooting, and it was the first day back at classes. And I remember coming out of the class, and obviously everybody's kind of on edge, and we're still very much so in the raw mourning process of this. And I walk out of my first class. It was in Pamplin, and walked out of the front doors, and it was like, boom, there's cameras and people sticking mics in your face. How do you feel? And it's like, how do you think I'm feeling? Like, I'm a little on edge. Like, get this mic out of my face. Why don't you focus on what's beautifully happening here? Why don't you focus on how the groups over there that are recovering or something. It's like, I know it's hard. They may have been trying to do that, but at the time, it just, the way they were approaching it, and just, boom, here's a mic in your face. And it was just like, give us time.
Yeah.
Maybe you should sit back and kind of observe, then feel how about you're going to approach it.
I gotcha.
I mean, I guess that's just how media can be.
No, I understand that. So I want to go back to Flippa Day, and I want to ask you, what really brings you so much happiness about being in the air and doing these flips and doing these shots?
The ability to be completely present. So much of what I deal with as far as anxiety and depression and things like that is because my mind can't stay in one spot. It thinks too far in the future, it thinks too far in the past, or thinks to the million things that I have to think about every day. But when I'm flipping and when I'm just in the midst of some of these just super intense challenges and workouts, really, I'm nowhere else but there. And that is a happy place in my mind. So if I can be in a happy place in my mind, then it's going to flow throughout the body. I'm going to feel good.
And I've heard you say the term weightless expressions before.
Yeah.
So what does that mean and look like to you?
So weightless expressions is something that I came up with maybe a month and a half ago. And being weightless for me is a form of medicine because of how it helps with the symptoms of anxiety, depression, perseveration, just overanalyzing things and just working yourself up. When I'm weightless, that's, like I said, medicine. All acrobats, I think, are artists. They're artists in their own way. And it's such an individual form of expression. Just as no painter can paint the same exact stroke as another. No acrobat can look the exact same as another acrobat. It can be very, very similar. They can look almost like twins, but everyone's got their own way of expressing themselves through acrobatics and being weightless. And that's something that just kind of came to me, is weightless expressions. If people want to be weightless, if people want to learn how to flip, I want there to be a place for them to come and do that. And I would love to continue instructing and kind of preaching this mentality and just giving the gift of controlled weightlessness.
Yeah.
And I like how the acronym of weightless expressions is WE.
Yeah.
That's big for me.
Oh, hey, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm sure a lot of people ask you a bunch of questions about these trick shots, how you do it, and probably a lot of different things. But is there a particular question that people never ask you that you wish they did ask?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. Something that they would... something I would like for people to ask. I don't know. I'm so open to questions.
Right.
I'm not afraid.
Is it anything... I'm sure a lot of people ask you questions about how you come up with the shot, maybe, or how, exactly how did you go about it? How was the setup? So is there anything that kind of outside of the shot itself that you wish people would ask you?
The process of coming up with the shots is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. It's very visual.
Yeah.
Almost meditative. You kind of let certain ideas or kind of body motions or sensations kind of come to you, mm-hmm. and then with the surroundings that I know I have available, then I kind of puzzle piece stuff together.
Okay.
And at my house right now, I have a white erase board.
Yeah.
And I'll map them out.
Yeah.
Frame rates and resolutions. But I'm very big on visualization and the law of attraction, and really trying to occupy the space of success before it even happens.
Gotcha.
So the more I can visualize the shot and descriptively kind of piece it together, the more likely I'm going to have fun while I'm doing it, because I'm like, oh yeah, it's this big thing that I'm a part of. And the more likely I will be able to succeed because I've run it through my head so many times.
Have you ever made a shot on the first try?
A lot of people ask me that one. I've made some dunks on the first try.
Okay.
Only after I've already completed them once. Mm. Typically, with dunks, some of them will have taken me, 5 tries. Some of them will have taken me 600.
Yeah.
But after I do them once, I've already unlocked that pathway, and I remember certain sensations that I was feeling or certain things I needed to think about on the successful attempt so I can kind of recreate that again. The fastest one has been second try.
Okay.
That was off camera. Fastest one on camera was a trick shot where I did a backflip, put the ball in between my feet, did another backflip, threw the ball with my feet off the wall and back into the hoop.
Okay.
That one was 5 tries.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, one question I do like to ask every single person towards the end is that, I think we all have goals and aspirations about things we want to do, things we want to accomplish and create. So how old are you right now?
30.
30? Okay,
Yeah.
and 10 years down the road, you're going to be 40.
Yeah.
What does 40-year-old Pat Graves look like? What has he done? What has he accomplished?
Awesome. I love it. 40-year-old Pat Graves, definitely still flipping.
Okay.
Is known as someone who, through his 30s, got really into taking care of his health. Not saying that I haven't in the past, but I want to get very adamant about that. Flippa Day has its own gym, that its own place. I guess I'm speaking like Flippa Day is like third person, but I mean Flippa Day is more so a thing. I'm not personally Flippa Day.
Right.
People call me that, I respond, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a location that I own where I can teach trick shots. I can teach acrobatics, trampoline, tumbling. I can teach that, and I have a whole team of people working for me. Inspire Happiness is a movement that is alive and flourishing. I'm doing motivational speaking. I am still playing a ton of music with my best friends.
A lot of things in the cards.
A lot of things in the cards.
You
but
got 10 years.
Yeah, it's all things that make me happy. I'm trying to build the big picture around something that I can see myself doing the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want you to speak towards is you talked about having a Flippa Day gym where you help people show them how to do these trick shots and coach them and stuff like that. I want you to speak on a little bit more of why you want the gym and what you want that to provide to people.
Awesome. Yeah, that is essentially special to me because I would love for that location, that building, that environment to be a beacon of light for people who need it. And because I remember when I would get the opportunity to go to practice, and I'm so grateful that my mom was able to take me to the practice and, afford the classes and things like that. That would be something that I would look forward to every day. And for me to provide that opportunity to other people and to give them the gift of weightlessness and to give them the gift of, the sensation of doing a standing backflip or whatever, that right there I think would be the most fulfilling thing, is just giving that belief in themselves, giving them that sensation, that lifestyle.
Right.
That would be what really does it for me.
That's awesome. Well, before I ask the last question, I want to acknowledge you for a second for wanting to be the light at the end of the tunnel for other people and bring that beacon of hope.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. There you go.
Ever.
That's awesome. And being able to always bring out that inner child, like I said earlier, you're just unbelievably stoked after you make these shots and do these different things, and it really shows out as authentic. And I think that's why you've built the following that you have and everything, is people can see the authenticity and are attracted to it and want to bring that out in themselves. So I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? Obviously, Flippa Day on Instagram. Do you spend time anywhere else?
I mainly do Flippa Day at Flippa Day on Instagram.
Yep, and that's just FLIPADAY.
Yeah,
perfect.
No dashes or no hyphens, nothing. Yeah. And I'm on Facebook, Flippa Day. I do have Flippa Day's private lessons on Facebook. People can schedule private lessons through there. My website is in development. And I'm still building my YouTube channel. I have this plan that I'm about to roll out.
Awesome.
Start executing.
Yeah, well, everybody go follow him on Instagram because he does some absurd, insane stuff, and it's really cool to watch him daily do this kind of stuff, so it's really cool. But the last question I like to ask everybody, my passion and my energy comes from simply wanting people to become the best version of themselves. And
it's apparent.
I hate cliches because I don't think a lot of people give enough direction towards the cliche, because it's very easy to say become the best version of yourself and leave it there and leave people wondering, how do I do that? And so One question I want to ask you is, for you personally, what are 3 things that you could currently do or work on to get to be closer to be the best version of yourself?
First one, to be closer to the best version of myself, would be meditate more. Second one would be, they'd kind of be coupled, would be eat a bit healthier and work out more. I mean, Flippa Day itself is a workout, but I'd rather not just have flipping be my workout. And then 3, I think, would be read more.
Okay.
I'm a big advocate of reading because it's brain food. You can read something that will stick with you the rest of your life.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. 3 great things, man. I appreciate you coming in here.
Dude,
Had a great
grateful to
time.
be here. This is awesome.
Awesome, dude.